So, welcome to Clean Conversations with Caitlin and Clean Learning. And I'm together with Shaun Hotchkiss,
Hello.
who is a director of Clean Learning and a colleague, and also my husband. And we're about to start a project where we're going to be using clean language interviewing in a very casual way in order to engage children and families where the children have emotional-based school avoidance. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we do at the doorstep.
Yep.
A little bit about therapeutic supervision.
Yep.
And how this stuff works at the very start of a project. We're going to have a few minutes discussion now, and then we'll check in with Shaun probably in about 3 or 4 weeks into the project, and then again with myself and Shaun, I'll join the project later as we get close to September and see how we're doing with the kids.
Yep.
So when you're doing clean interviewing with these young people, you're thinking right now, we haven't started the project yet. We've got a bunch of names and you're about to go to a doorstep.
Yeah.
You're a bit like what? Before you go, you're a bit like what?
So we do know stuff about them. So I've been to a meeting where this cohort was triaged, and lots of information. But the information it entirely came from schools. So you've kind of got all that information, but it's got, things like they really prioritise would be the Ofsted requirements, attendance rates, did they attend for their exams, all of this kind of stuff. So it's kind of having to go through this information with a filter and kind of go, well, what's it important for me to know about this young person? And knowing that that's come from the school perspective, or maybe a social worker's had some input, or another organisation. And so it's kind of knowing it's from their perspective, and forgetting it just enough so you can have your safeguarding head on, but you can meet them for the first time, fresh. Yeah.
So when you meet them fresh,
so it's fresh,
and you knock at the door, then what happens?
Well, that's the fascinating thing. You never really quite know. Something's going to happen. And quite a lot of the time it might be mundane. There's no one there. Go away, come back. But then when you get contact, again, it's one of the little catchphrases. When we've analysed similar projects before, we know our level of engagement is expensive. To pay a psychotherapist like myself who's training clean to go and knock on someone's door, it is an expensive way of doing it. Of course you can write to them, of course you can get someone to phone them and all of that kind of stuff. But the difference we think that those first questions make to the end result of engagement is phenomenal. So
let me just check.
Yeah.
Your time at the beginning is expensive.
Yes.
But our project isn't.
No, the investment we put into the early stages is, we talked about this with the commissioners. People might phone them up and say, "Can we come around and see you at 9 o'clock on Thursday?" We just know that ain't going to work.
How come?
Well, A, that's what everyone else would have done, and B, just through experience.
So what do you do differently?
Again, I don't want this to sound flippant, but we just catch them in. We might go around at 10 times on a Saturday, on a Thursday night. If the weather's nice, if the weather's not nice. If you get to, if you knock on the door and say, he's out on his bike. He might not be out on his bike at this time. What time's it? And then we just get lucky and catch him in.
Okay.
After going 10 times.
So you go 10 times. So we pay a fully qualified psychotherapeutic supervisor to hang around and knock on doors.
Yeah.
Then you do catch them in.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
Well, then it's again it's holding a million little things. How they're walking down the stairs. And I'm just thinking about this now because I suppose do they look tired? Are they oh God, or are they dead anxious? Do they not want to really? You get invited in and sit down, and then the parents go, "Oh, get in here, meet this guy." Do you know what I mean? So there's no.
So while you're noticing all of those different things, and what's your intention in this moment? What's your intention? You're picking up all the information. Anything else that you're looking at? Just before we leave that point?
No, I mean, probably
how tired they are.
Is the family welcoming? You know, I suppose you can't help but look at the environment that you're walking into. What does this feel like? Is it hostile? Is it friendly? Is it trust? You know, like trying to trying to pick up on those things that. Does it feel like they trust you? Like when you've been welcomed in, you know, or are you another example of the problem, or you know?
Okay, so they might be hostile to you.
Yeah.
They might be welcoming.
Yeah.
It might be hostile for the young person.
Yeah.
It might be friendly towards them.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Like, I'll go back to my question before. So what's your intention?
My intention is to meet them. It's to make contact with them. And I know we kind of have this as a joke, but success is, will they see me again? You know, that real simple thing. And it doesn't really matter if we haven't talked about, in this case, you know, their attendance at school, or in lots of, you know, it doesn't matter if we haven't talked about the subject, or we haven't got an outcome, or we haven't got that, you know, it's kind of irrelevant at this stage. You've got to kind of know what that is, but then you've got to let it go and go, I want contact with you, and I want you to think, you know, obviously, you know, of course, oh yeah, it'd be great if you could come back next week, Shaun, but it's not like that. It's like, if they can almost tolerate you coming back and agree to see you, then that's success at that stage, you know. Okay.
So primary thing is, will they let you come and see them again?
Will they let you come and see them again?
Yeah. No matter what you've talked about?
No, doesn't matter.
This makes me think back to when I very, very first developed systemic modelling with teenagers in London. And people would say, you have to do a personalised education plan with them when they arrive. And I'd say, if I get forms out when they arrive, I'll have an empty classroom tomorrow. Yeah. Whereas my thing was, will they come in? Then will they come in? Will they sit, or stand, or do whatever they do? Yeah. Will they come back again tomorrow? Because if they'll come back again tomorrow,
that's it.
Now, I'd already done my door knocking then. I had them out, but that's the same thing with you. Will they let you back? So what don't you do to ensure that? What do you not do that potentially other services or people watching this might think, that would be a good idea? So what do you not do?
First of all, knowing that. So once you're sensing you're getting close to that, you can come back. That's enough. So you don't need to overstay your welcome. You don't need to start telling them loads of extra other things. You don't need to start to big up the service and go, you know, your life's going to be fantastic when you go back to school and all of that kind of stuff.
Can I hold you on that point? Yeah. Because that's one I talk a lot with trainees about is you are not a cheerleader. Yeah. If you try and motivate these kids to do something, all you do is create opportunities for resistance. Yeah. Yeah. So if we're not motivating them, what are you trying to do?
So we haven't really talked about this before, but it's generally talk about adjacency in this work. So you're trying to be with them. Okay. You know, close enough that you certainly can't overwhelm or you know do that to them, but you've got to get them enough to go. Okay, how do we? Because like there's us and there's them, but what we're interested in is the relationship. We're interested in developing that relationship with them. Mm-hmm. So we want a couple of questions just to kind of go, what's going on, blah blah blah, which is kind of contextually clean. What are you doing? What's going on? What's happening? Whatever that means. All right, that might be kind of where you go as well. But what you're looking for is for them to kind of recognise that you're there and you recognise that they're there, and to start to develop something that means we can start to work on this together.
Okay, and I know that there's things that you don't do. For example, you don't phone them beforehand. No. Often, you don't leave letters.
No, especially in the early stages, because if you kind of think what these young people have been through, and them and their families and their carers, if you haven't been attending school, you've probably got 100 letters from school by now. By the time we're there, maybe an exaggeration, but and some of them will be, demanding that if they don't get them in, then it's thing. Also, they're quite likely, the families quite often be with other services who are all doing that, and there'll be, you can sometimes see when you go, there's a pile of unopened letters. What's the point in being one more of them? Or if you phone them, and then they don't get back to you, it's all, who's this guy bothering me again? So anything we can do to cut away a layer of resistance.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's the clean side of it.
Yeah.
Is you're aiming to be an invitation-based approach.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so you do that by just
Yeah.
You catch him in, and I know I've heard you say it, I was just passing. I think he's not just passing, he's just driven for 45 minutes to your house.
Yeah.
No, I was just passing, I've got somebody else in the area, I'm just calling in.
Yeah. Now they will know, so on this project they will know that we're coming in, because it's one of the triaging criteria is, did we get informed consent from the carer?
Right.
So
in this particular project,
they will know that we're coming, and well, in all projects, because especially if we're working with local authorities or statutory organisations, they've got a duty of care to let people know who's going to their house with the vulnerable people. But it's almost like, they won't have read that or remember that, or
and I imagine that you change, because I do know there are certain families where actually they do want to know and they want an appointment and they want to be ready. So I assume that you flex.
Yeah.
It's going to be family specific.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how I judge it at the moment. But someone could answer the door and say, "Just going past. I'd like to come back and meet you and blah blah blah." Or if it's, I don't know. If you see someone in work clothes and they're just ready to leave the house and go to work or something like that, you don't say it's a convenient now, because it's obviously probably not.
Okay.
So it's just just going past, just looking for a time to come and see you and Susan, you and Johnny. Like when might work, or you might notice there's a pram or something like that, and you can school pickup times. This when's going. Just that myriad of stuff that. So
you're judging a lot of things in the moment, live, while you're there, and making a judgment how long you stay, how much information you give. And it's just so that you can get back. Even in this very early stages, we're only going to talk about the early stages in this in this recording, because we're going to revisit the project as we go along. You still must see some things and hear some terrible things. How do you manage that?
Yeah, well, that's the truth, isn't it? So, one of my key questions, so when we go to the first contract meeting, is I manage myself, so there's ethical requirements to being a psychotherapist, and there's ethical requirements of working with clean learning, that we do use supervision a lot. So it's specifically, I can't remember what the minimum amount is, but say the minimum amount of supervision is something like 12 hours a year. When I look at my records, we're doing 4, 5, 10 times that. And we can't not have supervision conversations.
What does it allow you to do? Why is supervision important?
So first of all, what it does is it means I'm looking after myself, and you've got someone else looking at the very, the ethical basis of your practice, just to make sure you're not getting seduced by something, that you're not getting, into bad habits and all of that kind of stuff. It's looking at your ethical practice, and it gives you that external lamp, external one of these on that that kind of means that you've got someone else examining, probably the wrong word, helping you expand your thinking. Go, well, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Because there can be some advice in supervision, even clean supervision, but you're constantly considering that whole thing that it's almost impossible as an individual to do, and especially on a project like this. So we might look at it, supervision from a managerial perspective, and kind of going, what's your paperwork like? Are we getting the right information? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? Are we doing this? And you go, okay. Then I might talk to you or Marion and you go, well, how are we doing from a clean interviewing perspective at this early stage? What are the barriers? You go, blah, blah. Then you might go, okay, how are we doing from your personal perspective? How's this project affecting you? You know what I mean? And then there might be a bit of holistic stuff. How does it fit with what are you learning about yourself, Shaun? Are you enjoying the work? Because unless you keep that, and that's what we find in practice, I think people who do lots of supervision, lots of CPD, lots of development, they're generally in the field and having a good time. Because they've been there a while and they're getting a lot out of it. Whereas if everything's a slog, oh God, I've got to do this, I've got to go to supervision now. It's one of my favourite things about the work.
Okay. Yeah. So we talk about it's adjacency. You're trying to stand alongside them, trying to sort of meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And you make those decisions very quickly in the moment.
Yeah.
And then what happens? So you met them, you welcomed in. What happens next?
You've got your outcome. We know where we want to be going. And
how come that's our outcome? Because that doesn't sound very clean.
Well, it's what we're being paid for. So with the commissioners, there are X people who...
But then how can we do it? Because there's lots of things I could be paid for that I wouldn't do.
Sure.
So do you have I know personally, I've got a belief, because statistically, children who are not at school, who could thrive at school, do really badly. So being outside of the school system, being isolated from peers is not good.
Yeah.
And we also know that being in school for certain people is the worst place they could be.
Yeah.
So I know that in our project, we also will never try to get somebody to go to school where A, they're not ready, or we don't think it's in their interests.
Yeah.
So I know even if we're being paid for it, we don't chase numbers like that.
No. And I think there's something paradoxical, because when you stop doing that, the numbers happen. But
yes. You've got, what was your rate of? Over
the last 2 years, we had of the approximately 55 young people we worked with over the summer. 2 years ago, 100% of them stayed in education for more than 12 weeks, and then last year it was 96%. That was actually must have been 50 people, because that's 2 people. And I could tell you their names, and I know where they live. And in fact, I can't tell you where one of them lives, because the reason they didn't go to school is they moved. And I know, I can tell you why the other person is. And that's another thing I think you get from clean interviewing, is in the first commissioning meeting, I'm lots of don't knows. I don't know what's going to happen, a bit more professional than that, I don't really know. But what I do know is when we get to the next meeting in 3 weeks, the quality of information we give those commissioners about those children, will be of a completely different order than they've had before. And part of that order, it'll be from their perspective, from their family's perspective, and we'll from those things we'll start to be able to, I don't want to say the word prescribe, but you get a feeling what the journey for these young people is going to be like, and we go, okay, and I'll kind of go, oh well, Sally and Peter are going to get on, and we'll be able to start to do something like that, network it.
Yes. By the time we speak here again, you'll have done the initial door knocking. We were talking about our neurological profiles. I don't do door knocking. Yeah. I get socially anxious. The emotional cost to me of stepping out of a car, walking up a stranger's drive, and knocking on the door. Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, you love it. And you're really good at it. Yeah. Yeah. As a couple, if we're at a party, I'm fine so long as Shaun goes in first. But if I go in first, you'll find me doing the dishes in the kitchen. Yeah. Yeah. So you will get them, and then the next stage of the project is I'll move in once you've built a relationship with them, and then we'll start working out who are the right combinations to get that young person with another young person. Yeah. So let's hold that there. Yep. Not say anything else about it. Watch this space. If you've got any questions, you can join the Clean Campus is probably the best way, because what we like to have is questions that get answered. They can become a thread, or you can put questions underneath wherever this gets posted. Ask us questions. If you're interested in the training, obviously you can visit cleanlanguage.co.uk and look at events, and you can see where there's clean language interviewing coming up.
There is, isn't there?
I think this summer and again in November.
I think I'm doing it myself again.
You're going to do the course again? Always good to have it in the muscle.
Yeah. Well, it is, and yeah, I don't need to do a sales pitch, but yeah, it's good.
All right. Thanks for watching.